guys, what's going on? It's Amy again with Bargain Mama, and today is Tuesday, but it's the last week of March, and this video will probably come up today. But like everyone in life, I've been super busy and I have not been able to do kind of a little update from my vacation in Mexico, and so I was like, I will just do one right now. I drive on some back roads kind of to go to work, and I was like, well, I will just explain to them what happened now. So as some of you may know, 2 weeks ago I went with a friend of mine to Puerto Vallarta, my first time ever in Mexico, and she had invited me months ago and paid for everything. And I was like, okay, like, great, I'll go. She didn't pay for the plane ticket, which is where I'll get to how this, I don't want to call it a nightmare because it was amazing, the stuff that I saw, but for me and my lack of paying attention, it was a nightmare. So she told me months ago, she's like, hey, you know, let's go, all this stuff. And I was like, oh, great, okay, I'll go. So then she was like, okay, get your passport. And so I dragged my feet, did all this stuff, and my passport did not come in time. So I had already counted off that I was not going to go. And I was bartending like I do at the horse races on a weekend one day, and somebody from Mexico, or whatever, dual nationality, I don't know, but he was like, oh no, you can still fly without a passport. And I was like, no, I don't think you can. And he was like, yeah, you just have to fly in Mexico within Mexico. So it's kind of like if we were to fly from Arizona to New York, you don't have to have a passport. And I was like, oh, great idea. Wrong, Amy. First of all, just for anyone that wants to go like tell the national security that I did it, I already told on myself. By the time I was trying to get back into the United States, I was already crying, telling on myself and telling them, I promise if you let me back in the United States, I will never try to get out of the United States again without my passport. Like, that's how frustrated I was by the time I got back. But anyways, so I was like, oh, great idea. So my husband booked my ticket, and it went from, again, you guys, I am so used to my husband going with me and not doing anything by myself. I did not even look at my ticket to see where it was going. I saw Mexico City, so I assumed that I was flying into Mexico City, which is a pretty big universal airport. And so I did not. So apparently on the way there, I flew from Hermosillo to Tijuana. Yeah. Into Puerto Vallarta. And then on the way home, I flew from Puerto Vallarta to Mexico City back to Hermosillo. But let me tell you, there's a difference, people. There's a difference. So anyways, that was my plan. So my husband had booked me a hotel room. I was flying, I'll just sit out kind of layout. So I was flying into Puerto Vallarta on Sunday. My friend was getting there on Monday. And so I was going to have to stay in a hotel one night by myself, which I was scared about. I've never been in another country ever, let alone by myself. So I was going to stay. So I was trying to pre-plan like how I was going to do all this. I didn't pre-plan nothing. Let me just assure you of that. So I fly. So the night before I said, oh, I need to pack. Mind you, I should have packed way before that, but I didn't. Well, scratch that. So what happened is, a lot of you may know, I became ill with something, we're not even quite sure all the way yet, about 2 years ago now. And so I've had a full hysterectomy trying to fix it. I get blood transfusions, I get iron infusions. I had blood work done prior to leaving on my trip, and I needed an iron infusion. I was scheduled for an iron infusion prior to me leaving, which leaves my brain, if I don't have it, pretty foggy and leaves my body just off. I canceled that appointment, which was the stupidest thing I could have ever done. So, anyways, back to the week before. No, I did not pack for myself. The night before, I was like, oh, I got it. I'll do it in the morning. The morning of, I'm waking my husband up, freaking out, forgetting everything. I give him a pile of clothes that I had folded. I said, please put those in my suitcase. I had already packed my bathing suits because those I had packed the night before. My hair stuff like that. So I, like, panicking. My husband zips my suitcase, puts it in the car. And mind you, my husband said, I don't want you, because I was flying out of Hermosillo, which is 3 hours into Mexico. And my husband said, I'd rather you not take your car, take mine, just in case. His is still a nice car, but I guess, I don't know. But, so I said, okay. So my stepsister, who lives in the United States, she is, as a I don't know, is it nationality or something? I don't know. But she's from Mexico. Her mom was born in Mexico, so she understands Spanish. She understands all that. I was going to drive to her house, which again is in the United States, like in Arizona, just on this side of the border. I was going to drive to her house, and then she did not find it okay for me to drive 3 hours into Mexico by myself. So I get in the car, I start driving to her house. I'm already late. And then I'm looking and I'm like, I don't have a debit card or a credit card. I have nothing. I have $300 in cash. That's it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did not have enough time to turn around. So I text my husband and I'm like, I don't have anything. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I'm like, that's easy. Like, my friend Christy is coming. I can Venmo her money. It'll be easy. That's not where it ended. So I get to her house. We start heading to Mexico. First of all, I would like to point out that if you all have been to Mexico, I don't know, I've never been to Rocky Point, which is the biggest place, like vacation place. I guess their roads are very good. I don't know. But as I'm driving my husband's little Lexus in Mexico, not me, I'm like, as she's driving my husband's little Lexus into Mexico, I thought that we were on the back roads in, I don't even know, Kentucky or something, with the biggest rocks and everything you could possibly imagine. I was like, is this a main road? And she was like, oh, this is like the interstate in Mexico. And I was like, what the heck? First of all, guys, there was no lines. There was no, like, what is it? Like street lines. Like, where the heck are the lanes here? She's like, yeah, you just kind of go with it. Go with what? There is no lane. Like, so nobody's driving in a lane. And again, this was my experience. I am not saying anything bad about Mexico, because all the stuff that happened was all my faults. And maybe on the road, my friend who's been to Rocky Point said, like, it was a totally different kind of trip for her, because that is Americanized. So and let me tell you, Puerto Vallarta, everything was definitely not like my road from Nogales, Arizona to Hermosillo, Mexico, because Hermosillo is a very poor, all I guess between like the American border and Hermosillo is very like poor kind of. But so I had nothing, right? First of all, so we stop and get my little pesos or whatever, so we turn in my $300. And let me just say, like, along the way, I do want to point out, I am very grateful for like the experience of learning so many different cultures kind of thing. I guess 2 cultures, but just seeing all the different things, because there's like people on the side of the road in the little towns, like with their little food booths out there. It's not a food truck. It's a little food booth, and they're like selling their little burritos, and you just like stop and get one and continue on. Like, I mean, you pay, but I was just like, wow. And if you have never had a breakfast Mexican burrito, you are missing out. Like, I don't know what they do, but their burritos are like no other. But so, I mean, it was just crazy, because it was, you 1000% could tell, like, I definitely am not in the United States anymore. So continue on my way, and we stop for breakfast. In my mind, I'm thinking, I feel like we are really just kind of taking our time to get there. And then all of a sudden, my stepsister says, oh, I think we're going to be late for your flight. Excuse me? Oh, no. So then, of course, we're trying to like hurry up to get there, all this. So we end up getting to the airport. Now, this is where the misunderstanding, this is where the nightmare starts to unfold. I had thought that my friend who went with me, she was Christy. Again, she flew from the United States, so we were not flying together. I was flying by myself in a different country that I've never been in. I've never been outside of the United States. Excuse me. And so I thought that she said that when you check your luggage, you check it on the other side of security. Unlike in the United States, you check it on this side. apparently she told me that when you get your luggage, you're still in the secure area because, not Port Authority, but because customs has to go through your luggage. So, but I thought she said you take your luggage through with you, like the first set of scanners or whatever, and then you check it. So here I go with my little luggage. My stepsister says, I'll wait out here in case you need anything. I said, okay. Very small airport. No air conditioning, let me just point out. So I'm taking my luggage. I go through the first guy, scan my boarding pass, and I get in there, and there goes my backpack, which was going on the plane with me, which had nothing that you cannot take on a plane, because I know I was gonna say I'm not dumb, but you guys may think differently by the end of this video. So then I see like my luggage that I intended on checking to go into like the bottom compartment of the plane. I see it go through, and I see the looks on their faces, like, and he stops the bag, and he says does not speak very good English, and I don't speak very good Spanish, which is where I went wrong. I was it's not privileged, almost selfish. I can't think of the word, but I was assuming that they would be able to speak English versus me trying to speak absolutely anything in Spanish, which was very selfish of me, because like, I hear people all the time, well, if they're going to come in our country, they need to learn our language. Yes, Amy, maybe you should have thought of that. Like, I'm like, why doesn't he know English? Lady, you are in their country. Like, nothing. I have an app translator on my phone, which my phone decided, even though I have international calling, my phone was being very weird and was not working. It only worked when it wanted to. So, mind you, again, I'm like, well, why isn't he speaking English? Well, Amy, because you're in his country now, and you should have, been smarter and less selfish. So here I go into their country, and he's telling me, can I look in it? I said, sure. And he looks, and there's like my bag of like my toothpaste, my hairspray. He's like, is this aerosol or like aerosol? Yeah. And I said, oh, that's my hairspray. And he's like, and then it says toothpaste. And I said, and he says, he's trying to so he zips it nicely back up and pushes it towards me. And it's a very, very small little airport. Like, you don't take your shoes off. There's not the big thing like the United States where you put your arms up and the thing scans. Because trust me, I went through and I put my arms up, and they looked, they said, arms down. I said, oh, okay, not sure what I'm supposed to do here. So, I mean, it's very small. There's I think there was only 2 lanes. So, he pushes it back to me, and he says something like, no on airplane or something. And I said, oh yeah, it's going on the airplane. And so I push it back, and he looks, so this goes on about 4 or 5 times as I'm trying to explain to him it's going on the plane, I'm going to check it. And he's, obviously not understanding me, because I do not speak his language, even though I decided to go into their country, and very politely picks up my bag for me and escorts me right back out into the lobby where, I'm not getting on the plane. And I'm like, wait, what just happened? So I look, my sister is gone. And I'm like, what? She did not wait for me to text her. So I call her in panic mode. And luckily, my phone decided to work at that point. I'm like, where did you go? Like, you did not wait in the lobby? And she's like, well, what happened? And I was like, they said, they told me I couldn't get on the plane. And she was like, what? So she comes in and she sees me standing there. She said, what are you doing with your luggage? And I said, well, I'm waiting to check it. And she's like, oh gosh, no. So she goes over, she helps me check it, and she's just like, okay, no, you have to check it before. I was like, oh, okay. So then I go back to the thing, and he says, hi again, or something very nice, kind of laughing. And so I said, I'm back. So I make it through, get to my, get through, trying to find my, my gate. That was a little bit difficult. So they do nothing hold on one second. I'm going to have to stop you guys. Okay, I'm back. And actually that came in at the perfect time, that phone call, because now I can insert some footage, well, not some footage, but some pictures from the Hermosillo airport. I don't know what it is, but people were not wearing shoes in there. Some people were, but there was a lot of people laying on the ground. There's not, like I said, the airport is not very large, and so there's not a lot of chairs. So people were just like laying on the ground and stuff in there. And one lady was laying on the ground, and her boyfriend, or I don't know, whoever it was massaging her feet, and she didn't have any shoes on. And I was like, oh no, like I just can't. But so, and they pass out water and like snacks and stuff because there's no air conditioning in this airport, which was miserable. My phone was getting ready to die, so I had to run around trying to find a charger. Yeah, and it's not like the United States, there's not all these little outlets. Like at one point I thought I was gonna have to pull out the vending machine. I was panicking so much by not having like a phone that I thought I was gonna have to pull out the vending machine and plug my phone into there, because I was like, oh no, I cannot run out of phone juice here. So anyways, got all that done. But as I was saying, like, so their airports, they, you know, like when you go, you see the gate, it's up on the board, that's electronic, which theirs was electronic, but they do not assure your gate until 1 hour prior to your departure. So you can sit wherever you want, but you cannot, like, you won't know what gate you're flying out of until 1 hour before. And if your flight is too far in advance, I think it's more than 3 hours, you cannot even enter security yet. So you have to sit out into the lobby in like just the front area. So that was what was different. And then like, so when you're boarding, you know, it says like you have different sections or whatever, like boarding section 1 or whatever, not section, but you know, so it's just a little like paper that they put into kind of like a pole, and it's like, so here's section 1, and they bring their little boards, you know, that says section 1, section 2, section 3, and they bring their little boards with them, and then, you know, they put it in, there's 1, there's 2. So it was definitely very different. So anyways, you know, I'm waiting, and I finally see, you know, where my flight is going to board. So I go to get to that one. I made it on the plane. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, I got this. First of all, I was in the little snack thing, because of course I needed snacks. I'm like, oh, these caramels are going to be amazing. They were not caramels. They were guava. And, you know, I'm not a fan of guava. So I put this sucker in my mouth thinking I was going to eat it. I was like, no. So, yeah, the language barrier was a huge thing for me. So anyways, I landed Tijuana. I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, I'm going to sit here and wait for my flight. And I hear, first of all, there's people without their shoes on again. And unfortunately, the floors in the airports were absolutely disgusting. Like, I just couldn't believe how dirty they were. And I couldn't believe that people were going barefoot. So I get there, I'm sitting there waiting. And all of a sudden, like, I hear somebody, I don't know if it's an over thing. I don't know how they, like, if it's like a megaphone, but so I hear, what I'm understanding is that my flight is canceled. I mean, I understand some Spanish, but definitely not enough to get by. So I'm like, wait, did he just say that my flight was canceled? Oh, and mind you, how they communicate to each other. So how they can see what flight you're going, like what gate number you should be on, and all this stuff is by little cell phones. So like, if a flight is canceled, they get a little cell phone message, and then they go, yeah. So like, that's their communication, is like this little cell phone thing, and which is, you know, I mean, it's very difficult. So then I was like, I'm trying to ask him, like, is my flight canceled? But, you know, of course, so I showed him my boarding pass, and he's like, points to it, and he said, yes, that flight, you know, he's like, yeah, canceled. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm not staying in Tijuana. I'm not. So then I'm like, oh my gosh. So I call my sister, and my cell phone works again. And I'm like, can you please ask him, like, you know, what do I do or whatever? So my stepsister talks to him on the phone, and then she you know, I get my phone back, and she says, he's going to book you onto another flight. He'll give you your boarding pass. And so I said, okay. She said, but you have to go get your luggage and recheck it onto the new flight. Okay. So here I go. I'm waiting for him. And then he says, okay, you know, from what I'm understanding, he says, okay, this is your flight or whatever. Good luck. So I don't get a boarding pass, but I'm assuming, like, okay, maybe I don't get one. I don't know. Assuming. You know what assuming does, because that's exactly what I did. Made an ass out of myself. I get my stuff. So I go try to find, like, where the heck am I supposed to find my baggage that I now have to get and then recheck. So I go find this place. It's in a basement. And I'm searching for, somebody that can understand me again, because why wouldn't I not learn Spanish before I go and then get mad at them for not understanding me? Like, privileged. That's what I think. No, I don't know the word I'm looking for. But anyways, so finally I think she's understanding me, and I'm trying to tell her, like, how do I check it or whatever. So we go down this little blank hallway in Tijuana, and I'm taking pictures the whole time. I'm like, so that these are in my cell phone if I die right now, like, so that somebody knows the last place I was. So I come back out, and I go try to find something. So I go get back in the line to try to check my luggage. So I'm going through the line. I get up to the counter, and I'm trying to explain to her, my flight was canceled. I'm on a new flight, all this. So she takes my luggage, she checks it or whatever, and I'm like, okay, still I have no boarding pass. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe my old boarding pass works. I don't know. Again, my husband holds, when we go flying, it doesn't matter if I'm just with him, if all of our kids are with him, he has all of the boarding passes in his phone, and he is the one who scans us all in, and we just merrily walk in, unknowingly, just go. No, I had to do it myself. So I go again, because I had to come out of security to get my luggage. So now I have to go back into security. So the guy says boarding pass, and I said, I don't have one. Amy, like, can you get on a plane in the United States without a boarding pass? No. So why would you try to get on one in another country? So he says, huh? And I said, I don't have one. And he's like, boarding pass. And I'm like, no. So I show him my old boarding pass, like the flight that had been canceled from Tijuana to Puerto Vallarta. And I'm like, it was canceled. I'm sitting there talking to him. He doesn't know English. And he's looking at me like, I don't care. I just need your boarding pass, lady. Like, stop talking to me. And so I show him my old one, and he's like, no. And I'm like, ugh. So at this point, guys, I bust into tears. I'm calling my sister, and I'm like, I don't have a boarding pass. I can't get on the plane. I'm stuck in Tijuana. And so she again tries to talk to somebody else. So apparently when I checked my luggage, the lady was supposed to give me my boarding pass, but she didn't. But if I had known their language, I wouldn't have had to have a breakdown. I would have been fine. Like, so anyways, I get on my flight to Tijuana. No, I get on my flight from Tijuana finally after all this. Like, I am just done. I'm done. Like, I think at the end of the day, when I finally checked into my hotel room, I was at like an 18-hour day from the time I left my house. So I get into Puerto Vallarta. Oh my gosh, like, my dreams have came true. Everybody understands English. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I could have kissed the ground they walked on. I'm like, I am golden. So I get on my, I find a taxi, takes me to my hotel that I'm going to. I'm just like, thank goodness. I get like the tip out of my purse to give to him. Mind you, again, this is all stuff that my husband does when we travel together. So I give him the tip or whatever. I'm just like, thank you so much. I get in there. I'm like, thank goodness. Like, I'm at my hotel. I'm gonna whatever. So I get my room and I go to leave, and I said, where's my cell phone? I had left it in the taxi cab. When I went to get the money for the tip, I put my cell phone down. So I'm looking around, and I start crying. I'm like, oh my gosh. The lady, I'm like, can you call the taxi company? And they don't speak, the lady at the front desk did not speak very good English, but she did bring someone out. And they're like, we don't know what taxi. And I turn around after a couple of minutes of me bawling, and there's the taxi driver who brought my cell phone back. He saw it in the back seat. You guys, I would like to point out that in the United States, if you leave your phone in a taxi, the odds of you getting it back are not very well. But so the fact that I was in Mexico and left my cell phone, for anyone who has anything bad to say, there is bad people and good people in every single country. This guy did not have to bring my cell phone back. Like, I could not believe it. Like, he had just seen it in the back and brought my phone back to me. Like, I just feel like I'm going to start crying right now. Like, that would have been the most devastating thing, to lose my cell phone. He literally was just had it there, and I was like, I cannot thank you enough. Like, I was crying. I didn't know if I hug him. I don't know what you do, but I was like, thank you so much. Which I'm gonna have to put these into 2 different videos because it was just so traumatic, like so long. But just so you know, I did happen to see him at a later point. He had a store or something in Mexico, and so I did thank him again. But you guys, like I said, so that's how I'm going to end this video. As my first day of travel was a nightmare, but it ended with knowing that it does not matter. You know, people are like, oh, I wouldn't go to Mexico, it's dangerous over there. There's dangerous people in the United States, there's dangerous people in Mexico, there is dangerous people all over the world, and there is also very kind people. I would have been lost without that cell phone. The fact that he brought it back just meant the whole entire world to me. So I will end this video with saying that, and that is just day one. The other ones weren't so bad because my friend was there the next day, but I'll let you know. It entitles me losing my driver's license also. Sober, just so you guys all know, I was sober even on this day. So anyways, guys, that was day one of my travels to Mexico without a passport. Never again. So anyways, guys, I will let you go. It's gonna be a very long video for just one day of travel, and a lot of you are gonna be like, we can't with this girl, like, where is her brain? It was just gone. Anyways, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.